Before we start, I want to say something. Dan said yes.
I mean, I still can't believe it. We actually asked our friend Dan for a formal interview, complete
Right.
with prepared questions and everything.
Right, and to our absolute shock, he agreed, which is just, I mean, we have no idea why he agreed.
None. Zero.
Yeah, you're not going to ask. We are just going to run with it. Welcome to Just Johnny and Sophie, by the way.
Glad you're here. And just to clarify for everyone listening, Dan is not actually in the studio with us today.
No, no. Could you imagine?
Oh man, the silence would be deafening. But yeah, instead, we are going to report back to you on how this whole interview went. Because our mission today is, well, it's exploring how a person of incredibly few words can somehow deliver some of the most profound, hard-hitting truths about language.
And just about life in general.
Yeah.
Because if you've been following the stories we tell about our core friend group, Marcus, Lily, Maya, and Dan, you already know that getting a paragraph out of Dan is like physically impossible.
It's like trying to get a diamond out of a rock with a plastic spoon. It's just not going to happen.
Exactly. So to understand the really profound insights he gave us later in the interview, you first need to understand his extreme minimalism.
Right, his baseline.
Yeah, his baseline. So setting the scene, we sit down, we hit record, and I decide to start with a really simple standard question. I just asked him, how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
And, I mean, without missing a single beat, he just looks at us and says, quiet, consistent, fine.
Just deadpan.
Yeah.
Quiet, consistent, fine.
No hesitation at all.
None. And like quiet and consistent, obviously those make perfect sense. The man is basically a rock.
Total rock.
But fine. I have to admit, I pushed back on that one immediately.
Oh, you definitely did. You stopped the whole interview.
I had to because, in modern English, fine is such a loaded word now. It almost feels passive aggressive sometimes.
Yeah, like if you ask someone how their day was and they just sigh and go, it's fine.
Right. We live in this culture of like extreme hyperbole. Everyone on social media is either crushing it and living their absolute best life, or they are, a total disaster. There's no middle ground.
So you asked him to clarify?
Yeah. I said, Dan, do you mean fine? As in just, okay, like I'm doing fine, nothing special? Or do you mean fine as in high quality, like fine art or fine wine?
And his response, again, completely deadpan, was just one word. He said both.
Both.
Which I think we both laughed at first because it sounded like a joke.
Yeah, it totally sounds like a punchline. But if you actually think about it, it's kind of brilliant. He's totally rejecting that pressure to constantly self-optimize.
Yeah, he's basically saying he is perfectly adequate, just average, but also simultaneously a masterpiece.
It's just such a flex. Like, I don't need to inflate my status, but I'm also not going to put myself down.
It's a level of confidence most people never reach. So, right after that, we moved to the next question. I asked him, what's the best advice you've ever received?
And I was getting comfortable. I was fully prepared for like a long, winding story about a mentor he had in college or some dramatic failure.
But this is Dan we're talking about, so his answer was literally just 2 words. Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Yeah. And I really wish everyone listening could have felt the room after he said that.
Oh my gosh, the silence.
It was so heavy. We were just sitting there staring at him, waiting for the elaboration. Like, pay attention because, or... And then I realized...
You were just waiting for the context.
Right. But no more words came. He just sat there, completely comfortable in the awkwardness, while we squirmed.
Which is such a powerful communication tactic, honestly. It brings up a great phrase we use in English, actually.
Oh, right. The phrase, to get straight to the point.
Yes, because Dan perfectly embodies what it means to get straight to the point.
Exactly. When you get straight to the point, you don't use any filler. You strip away all the polite introductory remarks, the defensive fluff, the context building. You just deliver the core message immediately.
Most of us use all those extra words because we're, like, afraid of silence. Or we want to manage how the other person's going to react to what we're saying.
Yeah, we try to pave this nice, comfortable road for them.
But Dan doesn't care about managing your reaction. He just drops the information on you and lets you deal with it.
He really does. But, moving on from that, it raised a logical question. If his entire guiding principle in life is just to pay attention, how does he actually apply that when things go sideways?
Right. Because observation is great, but what happens when there's an actual problem?
Exactly. So you brought this up during the interview.
I did. I asked him, Dan, what do you do when things go wrong? And his initial answer was, I wait.
I wait.
And I'll admit, I challenged him on this. Because if I'm struggling Let's say I'm in a high-stakes meeting and my English grammar is falling apart or a big project is crashing.
Yeah.
If I just sit there and wait, it's not going to magically fix itself.
Right. It feels passive.
Yes. Isn't waiting just being passive? So I asked him, wait for what? And do you remember his punchline?
Oh, yeah. He said for it to stop being wrong.
For it to stop being wrong, which, okay, sounds like a complete riddle.
It sounds like a Zen koan or something.
Totally. But, okay, let me give you an analogy for this because it actually makes so much sense once you unpack it.
Yeah.
Think about a stormy sea.
Okay, a stormy sea.
If the water is churning and the mud is all kicked up, you can't see the bottom. You can't see where you're going. And if you jump in and start frantically splashing around to try to clear the water...
You're just making it worse. You're kicking up more mud.
Exactly. Or think about a modern camera trying to autofocus. The lens is whirring back and forth. The image is super blurry. If you panic and start mashing all the buttons on the camera, what happens?
It never focuses. You probably lock it on the wrong setting entirely.
Right. The only way to fix it is to hold the camera completely still and wait for the lens to autofocus on its own.
So he's saying when a situation first goes wrong, the environment is just blurry. People are emotional. The data is unclear.
Yes. And our instinct is to panic and push buttons. But Dan's version of waiting isn't passive, it's tactical patience. He's letting the sea settle. He's waiting for the actual problem to come into focus so he can fix the right thing.
Wow. That really leads perfectly into the next question we asked him, because I really wanted to know what was going on behind that quiet exterior.
Oh, this was the big revelation.
Yeah. I asked him, what is something people don't know about you?
And there was a long pause. Like exceptionally long, even for Dan.
I genuinely thought he wasn't going to answer. He was clearly calculating whether or not to share this, but then, very quietly, he just said, I notice everything.
I noticed everything. I mean, I got chills. My jaw hit the floor. We just looked at each other in that moment because, wow.
Yeah, it completely shifts your perspective of him. You realize the quietest guy in the room isn't spaced out. He's a supercomputer.
He is cataloging every single micro expression, every shift in tone, who's talking over who. He is taking in all the data.
Which brings up a really great phrase for our listeners today. When someone drops a tiny piece of information that reveals something massive about their character, you say, that says a lot.
That says a lot. Yeah, it's such a natural conversational phrase.
Right. Dan only gave us 3 words. I notice everything. But that says a lot about his situational awareness.
It says a lot about why he doesn't speak much. It's not because he's slow. It's because he's constantly processing.
Exactly. So, shifting gears a bit, we wanted to take all of this hyper-awareness and apply it to something practical. Like, how does this observation apply to learning a new language?
Because that's what we do here.
Yeah.
And if you're listening, you are probably navigating the absolute chaos of learning English. So I asked him, Dan, what is the hardest thing about learning English?
And his answer to this one was actually immediate.
So fast, he said, knowing when to stop translating.
Knowing when to stop translating.
I gotta say, this is honestly the most useful thing anyone has ever said about
yeah.
language learning on this show.
It really hits the nail on the head. Because translating in your head is such a heavy cognitive load.
It's exhausting. And, I think the best way to explain this, it's kind of like the difference between doing math and playing music.
Oh, I like that. Explain that a bit.
Well, when you first learn a language, you're doing math. You hear a word, you map it to your native language, you calculate the grammar rules, convert it back to English, and then speak. It's all formulas and equations in your head.
Right, and it takes so much processing power, you can barely keep up with the conversation.
Exactly. But eventually, to actually become fluent, you have to stop doing the math. You have to treat the language like music.
Just feeling the rhythm of it.
Yes. You stop converting every single note and you just start playing. You just feel the language naturally. You'll hit a wrong note sometime, sure.
Well, absolutely. You'll make mistakes.
But if you want to speak at the speed of a real conversation, you have to know the exact moment to let go of the math and just trust the music.
Which is terrifying for a lot of people.
So terrifying.
Letting go of that safety net of your native language brings up so much fear. So that naturally led me to ask him, what would you tell someone who is afraid to speak English?
And his answer. I'm not going to lie, I got a little emotional hearing this one.
Yeah, the whole energy in the room shifted. He just said, they already know more than they think?
They already know more than they think.
And look, on the surface, that sounds like a generic, motivational quote you'd see on a poster.
Right, if a life coach said it, I'd probably roll my eyes. But you have to remember who is saying this.
Dan. The guy who literally just told us, I notice everything.
Exactly. This is coming from a guy who deals purely in facts and data. For him to observe people struggling with a language and conclude that they already know more than they think, he's not just trying to make us feel better,
No, he's stating a fact.
he's diagnosing the problem. Your passive vocabulary, the words you understand when you read or listen, is always way bigger than your speaking vocabulary. The knowledge is already in your brain.
The fear is just blocking it.
The fear is blocking it. And this is actually a perfect moment to teach another great phrase, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The phrase to read between the lines.
Yes, because Dan's literal words were so simple. Just, they already know more than they think. But if you read between the lines...
Meaning if you look for the hidden emotion or the deeper, unstated truth beneath the words.
Right. If you read between the lines, there's so much incredible empathy in what he said. He's quietly acknowledging how hard it is, and he's giving this profound encouragement.
It really was powerful. Which brings us to the end of the interview. And I was sitting there thinking, how do you possibly wrap up a conversation with a man of such impactful brevity?
Right. You don't try to summarize it for him, that's for sure.
Definitely not. So I just gave him the floor. I asked our final question. Is there anything you want to say to the people listening?
And this was it. The longest pause of the entire afternoon.
Oh, yeah. We just sat there. The clock was ticking.
I really thought he was just done. Like, interview over.
But he was just waiting for the water to settle, and then he leaned into the microphone, and he gave us just 2 words. Keep going.
Keep going.
And that was it.
That was it. But honestly, how else could he have ended it?
Yeah.
It's the ultimate summary of everything he stands for.
Pay attention, stop translating, and just keep going.
So, Dan said keep going.
Yeah.
And that is basically our subscribe ask for you this week. We usually try to come up with some clever pitch, but today, keep going.
Come back on Monday.
Exactly. Hit that subscribe button right now, wherever you're listening.
Right.
Why? Because Dan said so. And our promise is always the same. Real conversations, real English, every day.
And speaking of Monday, I am just going to casually drop a teaser for you all. Monday's show is all about Marcus.
Oh, boy. The Marcus episode.
Yep. 1 full day,
Mm-hmm.
hour by hour. And you will not believe 11 p.m.
I am still recovering from what happened at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Seriously, you do not want to miss it. But before we get out of here, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We've just spent all this time unpacking the hidden depths of a man who barely speaks. So as you go about your day, whether you're, wrestling with a crazy project at work or you're just hitting a massive wall in your English learning, what if the biggest hurdle isn't that you need to study more vocabulary? What if you don't need more input? What if your main problem is just that you need to pause, pay attention, stop frantically pushing buttons on the camera, and just trust that you already have the tools you need?
Just let it focus.
Just let it focus and keep going.